Welcome to Hey Therapist. I'm your host, Leslie Ross. With me is my producer, Jay Wesley Lindley. Let's get mental. We are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hey Therapist. It's been a minute. I have been taking my own mental health break. It's sorry about that, but sometimes we all need it. As someone who struggles with seasonal depression, seasonal affective disorder, if you want to be technical, but it hits me every fall when the time changes, just like many of you. So I took a little break. Sorry for the lack of notice, but we are back. We are here. We are in studio, and we are going to talk about the holidays. So we've made it through Thanksgiving, and hopefully all of you had a pleasant Thanksgiving. Didn't do a lot. We don't do a lot for Thanksgiving anymore, but we spent some time with family. I spent some time up in the woods hunting. I thoroughly enjoy that. It's one of my releases. I just love to be up there and be up there with my dad and doing all those things and just having that time. And just there's something about sitting in a tree stand, and we all have that place that we enjoy, and I have two. One is under the water. That's my favorite place. My next favorite place is up in the woods, just sitting in a tree stand, hoping for a big buck to walk by, but that doesn't normally happen. But just sitting there and watching the wildlife and listening to the woods and just being in that moment at peace. And the best part is when I don't have cell service. Now, most places have cell service, and I do have cell service on my stand, but I don't always use it. I'm not on my phone because I do like to be aware of my surroundings. But it's nice to be able to check it, take pictures. I have gotten a lot more pictures over the years now that I have a phone with me of my tree stand, of sunrises, of sunsets and things. And so it was a nice holiday. And then we are fast approaching Christmas. And that's what I mainly want to focus this episode on is holiday stressors. You know, Christmas is one of the big ones. And so we're going to talk about that today. I got a little bit more in the Christmas spirit over the past weekend or so. We went to the Hallmark Christmas experience up in Kansas City. Me and my sister did. And if you're watching the video, you're going to see images from that. So I'm going to put those on there. But we had a great time. It was very festive. We went to the Hallmark events. We got to do a behind the lens and see the stars talk about their experiences. We watched what they called reindeer games, where the stars played games, little silly like Family Feud type games against each other. And the thing that we noticed the most is, for one, just the positivity of everyone that was there. There's a few that complain because some people just complain. But the stars, the people, they all acted like they genuinely liked each other, like they were having a good time. And they seemed so grateful about us being there, and they took time with everyone they met, and we got to take a picture with them, and it was just a lot of fun. So it really got us in a little Christmas spirit. And then we went out to a few of the little pop-up holiday themed bars and restaurants, you know, those places where it looks like Christmas threw up inside them, which is mine and my sister's favorite things. Like we love a good gaudy holiday decoration. So if you're watching, you'll see all of that footage. But I want to talk about the holiday stressors. I mean, it is the season for all of the emotions. We have happiness and joy and love, but we also have sadness and grief and loneliness. And sometimes it highlights all those strained relationships that we have in our life. So with those stressors, we have some maybe bad habits. Maybe we drink a little too much. Maybe we eat a little too much. Maybe we overindulge on other things. Maybe it's just something that we want to do. So I want to talk about emotional eating, though, because this is something that I tend to do, or I just won't eat. So I kind of go the other way with it, and then I catch myself being hangry and cranky, as has been pointed out to me before. I want to talk about emotional eating to start with, because I will emotionally eat some carbs and sweets. And it's, you know, most of the time when we're emotional eating, we're not plowing down on carrots and broccoli. We are eating those things that aren't so good for us. So it's really, really important that we understand our triggers. We want to recognize the situations that might cause us stress. And what I want you to do in those times is really play it out. You know, we get in the bad habit of what ifing ourselves in those negative ways, right? We're gonna, well, what if it goes wrong? What if it's not right? What if it goes back? All the things on the negative side, but we rarely think about the other side. What if nothing happens? What if it's fine? What if it's just neutral? I tell clients all the time, we're not really striving for happiness because no one's going to be happy all the time. And if you have an expectation that you're going to be happy all the time, you are setting yourself up for failure. What we're striving for is neutrality. You want to be neutral in life. You want to go through life and you want to enjoy the good times. You want to make it through the tough times. You want to feel the feels and move forward. But for the most part in life, we're kind of on autopilot emotionally, right? We're just kind of neutral. We're not just out there laughing at everything like a fool, and you're not crying at everything unless you're going through some stuff, which been there, done that. We're just going for that neutral emotion. So it's very important to understand what prompts your stressors. Is it loneliness? Is it family pressure? When we're thinking about emotional eating and sitting down and grabbing that bag of chips, if you know you are an emotional eater, don't bring the whole package of cookies, the whole box of Little Debbie's, the whole bag of chips, the whole whatever it is. Don't bring that to your space that you're fixing to settle into, because we're going to get our snackies and we're going to become a lump in your bed, on your couch, in your recliner, whatever your choice of chair is. So it's really important that you take a portion out, because if you're in enough of a slump, you're going to be too lazy to get up and get more. Like, you're really going to be like, oh, I want more, but I'm not going to get up and get it, which is okay in a way, because then we're not overeating. We're not overindulging. We're not fulfilling that emotional need to eat. We're not trying to fill the void with food. And so that way we are better set up to not also feel the guilt and shame and regret that comes when we do eat that whole package of cookies, when we eat that whole bag of chips. And not only are we going to have the emotions, you're also probably going to feel that in your body. So then you're not only going to be emotionally upset, you're not going to only beat yourself up that way, but your body is also going to feel it. So you're going to feel bad and feel bad, if you will. So let's just try to keep an eye on those triggers. And when we are eating, like I said, get those portions. We want to be mindful about what we're eating and when we're eating. We want to slow down. We want to eat those bites one by one. Check in with your hunger level. Notice how it's making you feel rather than just plowing through it. Because if you're just plowing through it and you're still feeling a certain type of way, then the food probably isn't what you need, right? So we need to deal with whatever we're feeling. We need to find a better way. And maybe that's going for a walk. It may be a deep breathing session. It may be watching something on YouTube, calling someone up and talking to them. And you don't have to call them and say, listen, I'm trying not to eat. But you might. I mean, you might have a battle buddy, if you will. And you may have someone who you can say, listen, holidays are hard and I tend to do these things, whatever my vice is. So will you be my standby? Can I call you when I'm feeling stressed? Can I call you when I don't want to do these things? So set that up for it. And that way you're not just eating on autopilot. You're not just sitting there stuffing your face and then, again, regretting it and also feeling really cruddy. We also want to balance the comfort that food gives us and its nutritional value. And holiday foods can be so comforting because we've got the cakes and the pies and the potatoes and the starches and the carbs, which is all we need. We need all of these things. Well, we may not need the pie, but it's not going to really hurt you if you only have a piece or two. But it can lead to a temporary boost in serotonin. So when we're eating all of these comfort foods, you may get that little boost. But again, it's going to lead to that sluggishness later because it's going to affect your body. So we want to balance these some nutrient-rich foods. Just throw in a little salad. Eat some carrots and broccoli, even if they're steamed, like whatever. Get that fiber in there. Get some veggies in your body. We want to get some fruits in there. So even if you're having a piece of pie, throw some fresh fruit with it, maybe. Like, get some things in there to add not only a variety on your plate, but also that way you're getting some nutritional value out of what you're eating. We want to savor our food. And we don't want to try to avoid those comfort foods, right? Because we need them. And the more you say no to something, the more you really, really, really want it, especially if you haven't quit. So if you've stopped eating sweets and you haven't had sweets in a while, you can be like, nah, I don't really want that. And your brain will be like, yeah, it could be good. And you'll be like, yeah, I don't really need it. And you may be able to power through that. It's kind of like sobriety. But when you have these comfort foods, altogether, we just want to approach with moderation, because restriction may lead to overindulgence. If you're like, no, I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to eat that. And then you're like, oh my God, I really want it. And you're just going to stuff yourself with it. So if you say, you know what, I'm going to get that, but I'm going to have a really small slice and see how it does. For me, it's kind of silly, but I've tried to cut out sodas the best I can. I do enjoy it, and some days I drink more than others. But what I have found, I really enjoy those little mini sodas, because it's the perfect amount of soda to get the taste, to get the kick, to get the fizzies, to get the flavor. But I'm not drinking as much as I normally would. So it really helps me balance having that vice, if you will, and also not drinking a 20 ounce or 320 ounces or 2 liters a day. So I try to just have that and go on. Now, sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes I need another one. And it's not like I need it, because caffeine doesn't do that for me. It's just, I really like it. I really like a good cold Dr. Pepper. It's got to be, that's where it is. And sometimes I just want one. So overindulging is where we can really get ourselves in trouble. But if we can savor that, if we can enjoy it, if there's a particular dish that you thoroughly enjoy, maybe it has sentimental meaning to you. Maybe it's what grandma always made for you, or mom or dad, or someone who's no longer with you. And now you've continued the tradition of making it, and it may not be the healthiest dish, because a lot of the dishes that are passed down through generations, someone may have modified it to be a little more healthy, but for the most part, they just really aren't. Enjoy that without guilt. Enjoy that without any kind of question in your mind, because that has meaning, and you're going to savor it, and you probably won't overindulge in it because it means something to you. So you're already being mindful when you're eating it. You're already enjoying those bites. And that's what can really help us do that. Now, again, we can create healthier versions of some of those favorites. Maybe, if we're using Crisco in something, we can probably replace that with a healthier version. Just those small adjustments, reducing sugar, adding plant-based ingredients, using whole grains. We don't want to change the flavor, right? That's the whole thing. A lot of times we don't want to change the flavor, but sometimes using light mayonnaise versus real mayonnaise, you can't really tell. Sometimes you can, but you can't really tell in a lot of dishes, especially when it's one of those where it's just mixed in with everything else. So you can try it out, see what you think. If it doesn't do it for you, it doesn't do it for you. Then we just have to be mindful to not overindulge. And we want to, discuss those healthy choices. If you're sitting down and you're meal prepping with the family, then say, okay, we're going to do all of this, but what do we have to balance that out? So if you're sitting down planning the meal for Christmas, you may have the same things every year. Maybe look at how to make those dishes healthier. Or if you do have just only a few things, add a salad in there. You can buy those boxed mixed greens for not very much, and it feeds a lot of people. Even if everyone just has a couple bites, just get a little bit of nourishment in there. Someone bring a fruit tray. It's just about balancing everything out and doing things in moderation, just like everything else in life, because we want food. We need food, but we have to be mindful about what we're putting in our body. And we want eating to be joyful, right? Especially on holiday events. We want to sit around that table and have fun and do all of those things, but we don't want to regret it later. So just be mindful about that. One of the other things that might happen around that table while we're at dinner is conversations, or when we're sitting around waiting for dinner to be had, or when we're coming close to holidays. We tend to have office parties. We tend to have other things. So we want to work on our listening skills. Maybe you're not the best listener, or maybe there are some strained relationships and you may not genuinely like the person you're having a conversation with, but we want to be respectful and we want to listen. We want to listen in kind of an empathetic way. Because one of the things that I tell my clients all the time when they're struggling with someone or they have a family member who is toxic, or maybe they haven't recognized they're mentally ill, or maybe they do know that, but they want them to be better, is looking at the person with their illness. So if you have narcissistic family members, if you have someone who is borderline and wants to make things all about themselves, if you have someone who is schizophrenic and they get a little paranoid around people, or they tend to shy away, that's okay. They're still your family member. We still love them. But maybe it's hard for you to deal with, or maybe you don't understand. So we want to listen with empathy, and especially when we have those personality disorders that overtake a room, that are hateful or make little jabs. Just listen with that empathy of understanding this is their illness. This has nothing to do with me. They can judge me. They can do the things because they really don't have that much say. And if they do, they shouldn't, because we don't take opinions from people we wouldn't call up for advice. So if you have someone who's throwing negativity at you, but this is a person you wouldn't even call if you had a question or needed support or needed any advice about anything, then maybe we don't take their opinion about us either. Maybe we don't take that personal. We just let them be who they are. And true listening means that we're listening and we're not judging. Now, that's a whole other episode. We going to do that episode. We going to talk about this TikTok trend. We listen and we do not judge, because you should judge sometimes. And some of the things that these people are saying should be judged. But that is not today's episode. We're going to talk about true empathetic listening. And that means we're going to listen and we're just not going to judge. And it allows us to give people the space to be heard and to feel seen. And maybe part of their issues is no one listens to them. They don't feel like they're heard. They don't feel like when they speak, anyone cares. So maybe just listen. And when we're listening, we want to be fully present. We want to set aside distractions, put your phone down, eyes up, show someone that you can feel validated. Now, I'm going to give my caveat. There are those people in the family that just talk nonstop. You don't have to engage. They're just going to talk, whether you're engaged with them or not. And maybe it's because they never get to talk to someone. And in those cases, like, think about why they talk this much. Do they live alone? Are they a retired individual who never gets to see anyone and they don't leave their house that much, or whatever it is? Maybe that's why they talk a lot. Give them some attention. You can excuse yourself from a conversation if it gets a little much, though. And we want to listen without interruption for the most part. If you are looking for clarification in something they said, maybe they said something that made your eyebrow raise. You're like, huh? What? You can ask them, for clarification. What do you mean by that? Tell me more about that. Just listen to be engaged and ask those open-ended questions. And how's the holidays? How are you feeling about the holiday? Are you having good holidays? How is work going? You can engage people if you choose to. Some people don't choose to have conversations and want to talk with people, and that's okay too. Sometimes you may ask someone and you may get more than you wanted. You may say, how are the holidays going? And they say, oh my God, I'm so stressed. I've got all this financial struggle and da-da-da-da. And this is the first year without my mom, my grandma, my dad, my cousin, whoever it is that may have passed. And it's really hard for me. And you're like, oh goodness, just as simple. Wow, that sounds really overwhelming. Or I bet that is really hard. And you can offer support. Is there anything I can do? Do you need any help? Hey, call me if you need anything, if that's someone that you would put yourself out there for. And a lot of times it is just saying, you know what, that sounds really hard. I would struggle with that as well. And that's comforting for a lot of people. If they are offering those things, if they are saying those things, if they are talking about what they're struggling with and all of life and it just sounds terrible, you can offer support, but you don't have to necessarily offer solutions. They may just be talking to talk. And this goes like in a relationship. If you have a partner who just needs to unload, but you're a fixer, your partner's unloading and you're like, well, what you should do is this, where they just want you to say, oh, wow, that's rough. That sounds terrible. And so you can be supportive and say, wow, that is really, really tough. How are you handling that? Have you reached out? Would you, there's some things that I do. Would you like to hear them? You can offer support in a way to say, hey, I may have some ideas, but you don't just throw that on someone. You don't force your opinions on people. And, the holidays do bring a lot of stress. It's a lot of financial strain. It's a lot of unrealistic expectations. It's family dynamics. We talked about the loneliness, and there's a lot of grief that come with holidays, because even if someone didn't pass around the holidays, it may be the first one they missed, it may be the 10th one they missed, but it doesn't always make it any less sad or disappointing that they're not there. So we want to be mindful about those things. If you are a sober person and family is not, be mindful about what your triggers might be and set your expectations for yourself of what will happen if you get triggered, what will happen if the family doesn't respect your boundaries. Be ready to leave. Be ready to protect your sobriety, even when your family doesn't really care about it. I'm sure, they're proud in their own way, but if people are in active addiction, they don't recognize sobriety as a good thing always. They don't respect it always. So you have to respect your sobriety and what that looks like for you. And if it means not going over to that family member's or going for a moment and leaving before, maybe dinner's fine, but then everyone starts drinking or using or whatever it is after dinner. So you know that as soon as you eat, you're going to get out of there. So you aren't exposed to that, because there's no reason to be. Because once you are sober, being around a lot of people who aren't is usually really annoying, even if it's your family. So you want to be mindful about that and keep your expectations realistic. I always say expectations are just preemptive disappointments. So we want to have realistic expectations. There's this idolization of holidays, these families around the tables. We see it on the commercials, kids all happy running down the stairs and families all together and all of those things. And that's just not always the reality. And it's not what we all have. We want to manage the expectations and understand who your people are and what this is going to look like. You can wish and want that your family was better. You can wish and want that it was going to turn out to be a little different, but it may not. So I want you to manage that expectation. I want you to understand what it's really going to be. Plan it out. What if it all goes bad like it normally does? What if this happens? Okay, make a plan for that. What if it's okay? Make a plan for that. But we want to base it in reality. Well, I'm hoping that this year, okay, has it ever been like that? No. Why would you think it would be any different this year? Have people been working on themselves? Has the personalities changed? Have there been growth? Has a toxic family member left the family? All of those things. Like, if there have been changes in the family, in the dynamics, in someone, then you can maybe hope for the best. But if it's all the same players who have played all the same games all years and they have not changed, then go in with a realistic expectation so that you don't disappoint yourself. It doesn't mean it can't be fun. You can go in and have fun with people that maybe aren't your favorite people, but be realistic about what it's going to look like. Also, with those TV ads, there's lots of financial pressure. Black Friday, toys, and everything is so expensive. Just getting the meal on the table this year is so expensive. One of my friends was telling me about a meme that she saw, and it was like in Home Alone, he went to the store and bought a TV dinner and a soda and a bag of this and a bag of that and all these things, and it was like $19. And that today would equivalent to like 70 something dollars. So it is not the same as it was, and things have just gone up. And so we have to be mindful about what we can give. And most of the time, yes, people want certain things And your kids may want certain things and you may want to give them the world, but really what they want is you and your attention and your time. And they're probably going to be happy with whatever you get them. Do they want an Xbox? Maybe. Can you get a Switch? Like maybe that's, they're not as much and it's still a game system. Can you just, explain to them that you can't have that? There's a lot of things that you can do to make it alternative. We don't have to go broke or go into financial debt because of Christmas, unless we know we can pay that debt off. Maybe you can go into a little debt because maybe you're getting a tax return and we can pay those credit cards off. We can pay all that stuff off. Maybe you have a bonus coming at work, so it may not be in yet. So we may have to go into a bit of debt and then we get those bonuses. But if that's not the case and you already have some debt, you already have some financial strain, Christmas is not the time to continue that. And you want it to be special, but you can make it special without just big dollar price tags underneath the tree. It's really not about that. It's about the experience of Christmas. It's about having that joyfulness and cheer and you making it special however you make it special. Maybe it's doing those gifts like something you want, something you need, a book, and something of your favorite color. One of those little things. Start those little traditions and then you don't have to go all out. You're not buying 15 gifts for one person every year. So understand that and set yourself a budget. One of the big things that we do encounter over the holidays is loneliness and grief. The focus on this togetherness can really amplify those feelings of isolation. And maybe you have a great family. Maybe you have people around you that love you, but maybe you've lost your partner or you don't have a partner. You don't have, that person to celebrate with. Maybe, you've had a loss in the family. Maybe someone has passed away and they're always there and they always do this and they always do those things and everyone's going to be missing that. Find a way to honor that person. And as far as the loneliness and, just the isolation, there are a lot of community events. If you have no one, I do deal with a lot of individuals that really have very, very limited, if any, close social family relational supports. One of the things we promote is, the libraries do a lot of things. Community centers do a lot of things. Day shelters do a lot of things for our unhoused individuals. It's really important to find your community, find your people. And maybe it's online. A lot of games, a lot of things have online spots where you can chat with individuals, where you can build kind of a relationship with someone I'm not saying a romantic relationship, but that does happen. But you can build a community. That's the word I was looking for. You can build a community of like-minded people, of people who enjoy the same things that you do, of people who also may feel very isolated and alone. And so you can build that community. And it's just appreciating the people that you do have in your life. For the ones that are in your life and the ones that you may have issues with and the ones that are going to be there that you may differ with, holiday seasons are not the time to resolve conflicts. It's about setting that expectation, knowing yourself, knowing, okay, this person's probably going to try to engage me in, maybe some political conversations, because, we don't want to talk about those. And if you can have a decent banter, that's fine. But some people are so hard pressed and delusional or whatever it is in their beliefs when it comes to religion, politics, whatever it is, and you don't feel that same way, having a conflict with them at a family event, having even a conversation with them is not going to change anyone's mind. And all it's going to do is probably disappoint you or piss you off, and it's going to rile them up and get them going. And then it's going to make everybody else uncomfortable. This is not the time. If they try to start that conversation, you can say, this is not the time or place for that. We can talk about that next week. Let's do lunch. We can have a conversation. But what they're wanting to do is just engage you. And if you disengage, if you leave it alone, then they'll either stop trying to engage you or they'll make themselves look like a fool because you're trying to be respectful to the other people around you and they are trying to engage. We have to take care of ourselves. this season and all the time, really, but holidays are really hard. And I just want everyone to figure out ways to take care of yourself. And a lot of that is planning. We make a plan. We what if on both sides, good and bad. We set those realistic expectations. We're also setting those boundaries. Like I said, you're going to set those boundaries. What is truly meaningful to you? What do you want to engage for? And what can we let go of? What is truly unnecessary? If you're feeling overwhelmed because you have this party and that party and this party and this and all these people and this expectation and I have to do this and I have to do that, do you? Do you actually have to? Probably not. You're going because maybe people expect you to, or maybe this is how it's always been, but it's never too late to step in and say, you know what? I just can't fit that in this year. I am so sorry. I will see you next year. And if it's meal planning, if it's doing these things, ask for help. And if people don't want to help, then they don't get what they want. Say, listen, you're the one that likes this side the most. Can you make it? I really need you to make it because I am overwhelmed. And that's the piece that you have to throw in there is the reason. Listen, I am really overwhelmed and I need help and support. So can you make this side? And if they say, no, I can't, I don't know how or whatever it is, I got the recipe, here it is. And they're like, then you say, okay, we're not having it. And cut back on how much you have. It's fine to change things. And if people around you don't like it, then they can step up and do it. We also, like we said, set those boundaries, set those budgets. We want to ease that anxiety. It is hard because we love people. We want to buy things, but we want to set a realistic budget and stop the last minute shopping because you think someone doesn't have enough or stop, whatever it is, stop it. Set your budget, buy the gifts, go on about your day. Be mindful when we get overwhelmed. Take those deep breaths. We want to stop. We want to breathe. We want to understand what's happening around us. If you need to ground yourself, do some grounding exercises. You can find tons online. You could also really ground yourself in the moment if you're feeling anxious. And you can name 5 things you can see and 4 things you can hear and 2 things you can smell. Feel the floor on your feet. Feel whatever chair you're sitting in with your hands. Focus on that texture of the chair. Is it rough? Is it soft? What does it feel like in your hands? Really ground yourself to the present moment so we're not forward thinking and getting super stressed. And find that calm space that makes you feel relaxed, that takes you away from everything. It can be a chair, a bed, a bean bag, or whatever it is. Wherever your safe space is, wherever you can go. And maybe it's just putting headphones on and listening to a certain music, listening to a podcast, listening to whatever it is. Maybe that's what you need to take that moment for yourself. And we want to practice gratitude. And I talk about this a lot, but it really, really is true. When we get down in the dumps and we're poor meing ourselves and we feel like nothing is going right, it's really important to recognize what is going right and what we are actually thankful for. And it shifts our focus from the stressors to the priorities. These are the things I'm thankful for. How do I take care of that? How do I nourish that relationship, that friendship, that whatever it is? That whatever it is in me that I need to nourish. How do I nourish that? And strengthen those supports you have. Call your friends, talk to them, tell them you're stressed. They're probably stressed too. You talking about your stress is not going to make them any more stressed. They may be like, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that because I have been feeling the same way. And I don't want to say it because everybody's so stinking happy and 'tis the season and all that nonsense. So I am so glad that you called and told me you were stressed. Like, man, that was really helpful. So practice that, strengthen those networks. And another thing I really, really want to stress is setting those realistic expectations. There is no perfect holiday. Reality is that things may not go exactly as planned. The reality is things most likely will not go exactly as planned. But focus on the moment. Focus on what is happening within. Find humor in the screw ups. If you burn something, if you ruin the day, find humor in it. It's not the end of the world. There are much bigger things to stress about than making sure everyone gets their favorite side and all of those other things. Like if they want it, they can bring it. If they want a certain present, we're most adults in my family, even the kiddos are older. It's like, do I buy a gift for all of them? Do we do these things? No, because we're grown-ish. Like, we'll figure something else out. And so it's finding ways to keep your traditions, but grow them, change them, move with the times within your family. What does it look like for your family now? And prioritizing self-care is not selfish. Taking care of yourself is not selfish, because if you do not take care of yourself, you cannot take care of anyone else. And so it's really, really important to practice that self-care, to acknowledge the things that you need and what's going on, and to have the best holidays that you can. And so with that one, I'm going to say Merry Christmas coming up. Happy holidays. Whatever you celebrate, I hope it goes well. And see you next week. For my producer, Jay Lindley, I'm Leslie Ross. Thank you all for joining us. Please send any questions or comments through the website, heytherapist.com, or email help@heytherapist.com. They may be featured on the show anonymously. Hey Therapist is an SEOK radio production and is for your entertainment purposes only. Thank you for joining us. Make good choices.